have an iPad. What I'm going to do, this is a tutorial. So this is I'm going to go through in a tutorial format on how you can create a podcast 100% start to finish on an iPad. I'm going to go through all the different items. Any questions, please see me afterwards. No rush because there's lunch afterwards, so I can answer any questions. But you can always email me, rob@lipson.com. Here is the equipment basically I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. This now includes the iPad mini. Everything I talk about here should work also with the iPad mini. Cost of the iPad, if you don't already have it, $329, $829, other pricing ranges now. Additional hardware, the Yeti mic, and this is if you want to make it sound the best as possible. This is optional. The Yeti mic, the USB adapter for anyone that has a 30-pin dock connector iPad, and then a USB thumb hub, power hub, and actually this piece and this piece is this here. This is what that setup looks like. It's a power hub, and I'll show you that a little bit in a screenshot here in a second. The apps I'm going to talk about, there's two apps that are on iTunes that will allow you to create an MP3. So when I talk about podcasting, I'm talking about audio podcasting, and that means MP3. And there's only two apps in all of iTunes Store that allow you to export a file directly from your iPad or iOS device as MP3. One of them is Walch, which Dave Mintzway is a developer of, and Dave's from Pittsburgh, and he's here in the audience. And the other one's iAudition. So I'll talk about those. I'm actually going to really talk about the Walch one in this presentation. I'll explain why in a minute. Then a couple other apps I'm going to mention here: vBrowse, Mercury Browser, both of which are free, and then Photoshop Touch, $10. You'll know what I'm talking about up in the corner. I'll have the icon for the app I'm talking about when I'm talking about it. And then podcast hosting, which can run anywhere from $5 to $70, $5 a month. So this is your basic cost here for doing a podcast. It's not expensive, especially if you already have the iPad. You're really just looking at a variable cost here, $150. And then a fixed cost of $150, and then a variable $5 to $75 a month. $20 a month is normal. This is a picture of my setup with the mic plugged in, USB mic into this equipment, into the 30-pin dock connector, and then the app running. I'll put that down. That doesn't show very clear, so that's why I put this next slide together. This is the basic configuration. USB cable into the power hub, thumb, and then this goes into the USB connector that goes into your iPad. This will not work with the iPhone because the USB connector kit does not work with the iPhone unless you jailbreak the iPhone. And this does need to have power, and the reason that you need this hub, why you can't plug directly in, the iPad will not give enough power to fire up the mic. So you need to have a powered hub to do this. Not all powered hubs work. I've tried a few different ones. The one here is from Belkin. It's $22. You can still find it. You do need one that's powered. And again, not all the powered USB hubs will work for some reason. I've tried a few. This is the one that does work. Please.
Let's have the same voltage. How will it difference? Why would it not work?
It's a 5-volt supply. But then, hold on, I need to find the audio here. In the haste to set up. There we go. All right. I want to play you a recording I did using 3 different mics. 3 different mics were, one is the headphone mic that you get with your iPhone. So the one you can just, comes with any iPhone. The other is the mic that's in the iPad, and then also with the Yeti mic. So here's an example of this playing out how the recordings sound and why I kind of recommend this one overall.
This first recording is done with a Yeti mic from Blue via a USB adapter. This offers very good quality in a quiet room. The second part of the recording is done via the iPhone headphones that came with the iPhone 4S. This is via the inline mic on the headphones. Audio quality on this is not as good as with the Yeti. The third part of the recording is via the internal mic on the iPad. This one has the blur sound of all three as you sound distant, and the noise floor on this and the last one, the previous one, are much higher than with the Yeti mic. Here is the background noise for the iPad mic. Okay, we're back to the Yeti mic, and the following is the background noise for the Yeti mic.
Which is hard to hear with all the stands going on.
And I'll switch mics. And now back with the iPhone headphones. And I'm going to go ahead and switch again. Now to the iPad's internal mic. And finally back to the Yeti mic. As you can hear, the Yeti mic is the best of the three and offers the lowest noise floor, which means less fatigue for the listener and a better overall experience listening to your show. All of these recordings were done in one session with the Walch app, where I just paused it and switched mics and restarted it. So there was no editing. This is pure unedited.
And if it was a quiet room, you would have heard this buzz, a little bit of a buzz in the background. It's a higher noise floor that you get with the iPad mic and the other mic. When you have the earbuds in your ears, it's very noticeable. Now, again, there are some mics that you can get that you can plug into the iPad that will give you a better noise floor. If you want the best quality, I think Yeti USB mic is probably one of the best ones out there. Definitely the best for the price, $95 from the modem. There are others out there. This is Samsung. Now, there's two programs out there I mentioned for creating the recordings. There's the Walch app and the iEdition. Now, I am not just talking about Walch just Dave's in the audience. This presentation is PyCamp Week, so I talked about just there, and Dave wasn't anywhere there. Main reason I'm talking is this one here was last updated on October 5th, 2011. This one was updated September 20th, 2012, and I actually got a beta from them last night. So they're constantly working on it. It is $9.99 versus $4.99, but this is definitely the better of the two apps. Creating a recording on the iPad with the Walch app. This is very simple. First thing, click here, starts up the mic. When you see this highlighted and hit up, now you've got your mic active. I typically pull the slider down to find the level I like. I usually bring the middle of the slider right down to about here, bring your volume level down. That's a nice thing about this app, is you can adjust your volume levels and get it to where you want it. You don't want to be up here, you don't want to get your volume level too high, you'll be peaking. Next, just click record. Now that you're recording, you just go ahead and do your show. When you're done, all you do, click the slide, pause it, then finally just click finish, and your recording is done. All you got to do at this point is put a title in it, hit save recording, click on the show you just recorded. When you get there, you're going to see this is the basic information about this recording. At this point, what I recommend is that you go in here and click on description, put in the description for your show. This description is going to go over to Libsyn and it's going to go in your feed. After you do that, you also want to edit your title. What you want to do is put a title that's friendly for the post. This will be what will show up in your blog post or the podcast post. You put a title in here, but then you need your file name, which is something without any spaces. So this one you can have spaces, this one you don't. This is a nice feature. All you got to do is click on the lock symbol to unlock it, and then you can have two different things. That's a great feature that they added. Someone must have intelligent asked them to add that. And then the other thing is you can add your artwork. for your episode. So you're getting the episode artwork. So go in, pick the artwork on for the show, for that episode. And then here is everything. You've got your show ready to export and go up. Now the problem is at this point you actually don't have podcast hosting. You actually still need to get your host. But there's one more thing you need, and that is artwork. In the last section I mentioned one of the most important things you need to get your show featured in iTunes is good looking artwork. If you don't have 1400 by 1400 pixel image, your podcast will never get featured in iTunes. There is the app Photoshop, so now we're talking about Photoshop. In iTunes, $9.99, you can go in, you just click on the little plus symbol, brings up this box, put in 1400 width, 1400 height, click OK. That was really anal. Brings you in here. I am not going to show you how to use Photoshop. They have tutorials in the app that will teach you how to use it. So if you don't know how to use Photoshop, it's actually a really simple app to use. I just went in, found that same image we just used, brought it in here, went in, clicked on the symbol here for text, put in text, did that. So I created this artwork, real simple on Photoshop. Once you get here, now save to get your photo. What you need to do is now get from here back into your photo library. Very simple to do. Click on this button here, gives you a drop-down menu, and then you want to go ahead and click Save to your camera roll. Once you do that, you're brought here. Just click on the artwork you want to export to your camera roll, and then you click OK. And that really is all you've got to do. In between creating the artwork is a little bit more complicated, but getting it to your album camera roll is pretty easy. Next, with the app Mercury. Now the reason I recommend Mercury, I've tried every browser pretty much that's out there. All the free ones that are in iOS, available on iOS. Mercury I found to be the best free browser. One, it doesn't have annoying pop-up ads. Two, it's really fast for the listen system. So eventually what will happen is after you get your podcast created and you're listening to what you're going to become is called a stat junkie. So once you start becoming a podcaster, you're going to want to go back and check your stats. People come in and they check their stats incessantly on our system. I will get emails from people that will say, hey, it's 11 o'clock in the morning, I release my show, and normally at 11 o'clock in the morning I should have this amount of downloads. They check every day at the same time. Some will check every hour. I just checked an hour ago, and how come my stats haven't updated? Yeah, I'm like, wow. You need to not do that so much. Eventually, you'll get over that stat junkiness, but initially, you want to see how many downloads an episode got. This browser works really well with those. So you select the plan. You put in a slug here. Now, the show slug, you put all your information in. The show slug one here is important. This is unique to your show across the entire listen system. If you type in a slug that's already taken, it'll say this slug's already taken. Then you have to go and find something else. Make believe that said iPad tutorials, because that's what it should have said, but I already had done it when I was taking the screenshot. So, put in something that you want. Next, put in promo code PCPGH7, which is now a valid promo code, so PCPGH7, used by November 15th, will give you a free month of hosting at Libsyn. Doing your credit card information, you won't be charged until, so if you put in credit, if you put this in today, you wouldn't be charged until December 1st. Scroll all the way down, reading, of course, the terms of service as you scroll down the long terms of service. Click if you read it, and then just click Create My Podcast. You should then see this. Congratulations, you are set up. Your podcast is set up. Wait, it's really that fast. You can get your account up and running here today at lunch on your iPad if you have an internet connection. It really is that quick and easy to do. You get an email from Libsyn that'll tell you some basic stuff. Read it over. It'll tell you your login names, your email, and how to FTP and some other things here. Go to Libsyn.com. When you go here, which wow, this is not showing up very well on this, you click login. Sorry, I'm trying to make these as readable as possible. Once you log in, you want to, in the upper corner, setting up your podcast first time. Click here, you're going to get a pop-up window. This is where you're going to upload your artwork. You're going to put in your title, your descriptions, basic information. Uploading artwork. When you click this, you have to have, here's important, you have to have iOS 6. So this is not going to, this tutorial is about working with iOS 6. You have the original iPad. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to do this because this is a new feature that's added in iOS 6, which is where you can actually choose and upload photos. So, I don't know how many people here use Craigslist in iOS 5 and earlier. If you wanted to use Craigslist on your iPad and upload a photo, you couldn't do it because you can't. You have to have a special app to do it. Now, in Safari or any web browser with Craigslist, you can go and click on an upload image and it'll ask you either choose an existing or take a photo or video. So actually, it's really nice for Craigslist. You can go with your iPad, be logged in on Craigslist, go up to the item you want to sell, click on take a photo, and do it all right from the iPad. But we're talking podcasting. So anyway, you'll pick it. I chose the artwork here. Everything's in. I put in my title, show, description, all the other information. You can change the title later on and save. Once you do that, you'll see your artwork shows up here. Sometimes it may take a few times for refreshing the browser to actually show. This is not quite set up. With Ellipsin, you still need to add some specific information for iTunes. You click here under Destinations, and then you click under Destinations, Ellipsin Classic Feed. That will pop up this view. Zoom in here. I really tried to make this view long. Sorry, folks. But basically, there's an iTunes category. Anytime you see something in red, that's something that has to be done. You want to pick a category that matches up for your show. You have to have an iTunes category if you want to switch your podcast to iTunes. After you've picked your category, there's some other information, the summary. Summary for iTunes is the description of your podcast. iTunes does not pull the description of your podcast from the description. For some reason, powers that be at iTunes thought it would be better to pull the description from the summary tab. Don't ask me why. That's Apple, and it's nothing to do with us. But you just basically copy and paste whatever you put for your description, put it in here. So I did. Subtitle, just the first sentence of your description. Put in your author information, your name if you want to show it in iTunes, and your email address. If your show is explicit, here's an important point. If you're going to drop F-bombs in your podcast, you need to say your podcast is explicit. iTunes does not care that you say the 7 words that George Collins was so famous for. They really don't care. They only care that you label it explicit because they don't want some mom in Iowa's kid finding your show that wasn't labeled explicit when she had parental filters turned on. If that happens, you will be kicked out of iTunes. And getting back in is a pain in the butt. Get your information, click save. It will then bring you to a point where you'll see what your new podcast feed is. So in this case, we're going to be http://iPadtutorial.lipson.com/RSS. That's the one I'm using for these demos. You want to go ahead and copy that. For those that don't have a copy, just tap in there and select it all. Do a copy. You're going to need this. And then you want to go to feedvalidator.org. Feedvalidator.org. You want to check your feed before you submit to iTunes. If your feed is not valid and you submit your podcast to iTunes with an invalid feed, what will happen is you will get a message from iTunes that says, sorry, this feed isn't valid, please fix your feed. You will go back and fix your feed. You go to resubmit your feed, they'll get a message that says, sorry, this podcast is already in iTunes, and your show is stuck in limbo and it will never get approved. So make sure it is valid before you do that. So next, copy this PC, or don't copy, select it, then paste over the top. I know, very basic, sorry folks. And then click validate. You should get a message that says, congratulations. When you first do this, because you don't have an episode yet, you'll get this message here that says implausible date, January 1970. That's okay. That's what you're supposed to see until you actually publish something in Libsyn. which is actually a good thing for you because this allows you to check to make sure your artwork is in there. Scroll down and in this message and you find iTunes image. This is what Apple's going to use, and it's a good time for you to check and confirm you've got the right image in there. All you do is just tap on that link and it'll open up your image in a new window. So just a good chance, a good time to just do a quick check. Now, uploading the recording. So we've got your Listen account set up. We already have the artwork for your show. Everything's ready to go. Now, we go back into the Walch app and go to the recording and you just click on export. You will then be brought to this window where you can choose the set, what type of format that you're going to export at. They have MP3, M4A, WAV, and I got mono or stereo. I like MP3, mono, and 96 kilobits. A lot of people go with 64 kilobits. If you move this slider here, it'll change the bit rate. This is the settings I like for myself, for my show. If you're doing spoken word podcast, your best to just be mono. Stereo is going to be one if you're doing a lot of music, but for most people that are just doing spoken word. Next thing to get this uploaded, just simply click FTP. It will give you a message that it's uploading it, and then, or encoding it. When that's done, you're taken to this screen, and then you put in the FTP server. It starts out by default putting in FTP server listen.com. So they have that in there by default, which is nice. Then put in your show slug. So remember before we did iPad tutorial. Then / and that says QuickCast, which if you scroll over a little bit, you'll see it's QuickCast, your username and your password. That's it. Put that in, click on upload. You'll get a message, FTP succeeded. Your podcast has now been uploaded and it's on the feed. And you have your first episode ready. To check to make sure everything's okay, you can go to a page, iPadtutorials.libsyn.com/webpage. You can see here's the episode that was uploaded. So now you know you're sure that your file's there. You can check it to make sure everything works. Go back into the feed validator, validate your feed again. It'll say congratulations. It'll say congratulations. You won't see any of the other messages now. So now your feed's ready to submit to iTunes. Before you do that, it's always good to subscribe to iTunes in your own on the podcast, or subscribe to your podcast on your podcast app, just to check it one more time, make sure everything works. If you have the podcast app, it's easy to do. If you don't have it, just free download from Apple. Just search for podcasts, download that. To check your feed for podcasts that's not already in iTunes, click on search, and this is in the library section of the app. You know you're in the library section, by the way. You know you're in the library section because it says catalog in the lower right. It says library and you're in the catalog section. But anyway, click that. You'll type your RSS feed, the one that you copied and pasted, just paste it right back in here. And when you paste your feed in there and then hit search, you'll get this message, subscribe to podcast. It'll realize that you don't have that. And then all you do is hit subscribe. It'll then subscribe to your podcast right in there. You can do that, by the way, with any RSS feed. So if you want to right now, you can go ahead and try it out with http://iPadtutorial.libsyn.com/RSS. You can see some of the testimonials that are done recently. Once your podcast shows up, just click on it. You'll see your show. You'll see the most recent episode. Tap on that episode, and you can start listening. And then you know your podcast is ready to go. Once you hear it, everything sounds good. Then you need to submit it to iTunes. I kind of know I said this is 100% on how to podcast from your iPad. There's only one thing you can't do from your iPad when it comes to podcasting, and that is actually submit your podcast to iTunes. The only way to submit your podcast to iTunes is to get on an iTunes client on a computer. If you don't have access to that, and you're with Libsyn, just email me and I will take your podcast. And again, and I've got it, good, we've got time. I'm going to show a couple other tricks here, but that's really all you have to do. If you use promo code PCPGH7 on Lipson, and I just want to show as an example of how easy this is to do. So if I go in right now, I'm in the boss shop. So a lot of this will work. And I'm going to hit record here, turn my microphone on, bring my slider in. And I'm going to say, okay, right now I'm at Camp Pittsburgh, and I'm on stage and I'm doing a recording. And then I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to hit finish, and I'm just going to leave the name that's in there. I'm just going to try to do this as fast as I can. Go to my recordings. So here's the recording I just did, and go in here. I'm going to change that title to on stage, and back here, and description on stage, back. And now we'll do an export, and it's got the settings I already want. It'll save the settings from where you were last time. I'm going to hit FTP, and it says it's encoding. And it already has my FTP settings saved, so after you do it one time, you don't have to do it anymore. I click upload, and FTP succeeded. And at this point, in a minute, if you go and check, you will see that episode show up. So it takes about a minute for that episode to go live. So what I'll do right now is I'm just going to show you one other thing. There was another app that I had recommended. So this is like step extra part here, step 11. Editing the description. So I talked about putting in the description, and you did it from here. But what if you wanted to have links in your show notes? You want to have output links. Well, you can't actually do that from the apps. You can actually have to go into Lipson and edit in the WYSIWYG editor that we have. The problem with the WYSIWYG editor Lipson is there's only one browser on iOS that works with it, and that's a free browser. It's called vBrowse. And it's kind of a Flash-based browser, so it lets you see some Flash content. So if you actually don't have this browser, it's a really nice browser to have. It's just every now and then you come to a website with some Flash content, and this is a browser that will let you see it. So people that say there's not Flash on iOS device, that's not true. It's really hard to see, but up here, when you go into the browser, there's this little monitor symbol. It's like a little monitor, and it's not highlighted. There's nothing inside there. It's grayed out in the middle. Tap on it one time, and that monitor will then become gray or whited in the middle. That puts you in Flash mode. So that lets you then see Flash content. Once you do that, then you can go ahead and click on the episode list. So for example, the one we were doing in the test episode, you'll see the episode here. If you just tap right here on top in the episode list of the episode, what you'll see is some options pop up, and you want to go ahead and click on edit, and it'll take you to a screen like this, and here you'll see the description. And then you can go in here, put in more stuff, you can add links for they're out this way, off this way, but you can also add in links for anything in your show notes. So vBrowse, it's a free app, the letter browse, free app in iTunes, in iOS. It's a nice one to have. And then we go here now to the recording I did on stage. See it here. There we go. So now the recording I did is actually showing up here on the iPhone in my podcast app. And if it starts so I podcasted from the stage. So that shows you that Dave owes me a beer afterwards. If I drank. But one more thing I want to say. One of the things I say about podcasting you want to do that really helps grow your audience is get listener feedback. And there's a service out there called K7.net. K7.net, it's a free service, and what you do is you set up the service, you can do it from your iPad, where you get a phone number. So for my show, Today in iOS, my number is 206-666-6364. It's 206 Moondog. My listeners call in. So here's a voicemail message that's sent to me from k7.net. And when they send it to you, you'll see a little down arrow. That means you need to download that file. Because when the email first comes in, it's not downloaded. So you tap on that. That will download the WAV file. Here's what's great now also with this app. You then tap on the recording that someone sent to you. And what you're going to see is this option pop up. You can then open it in these different apps. Here's the Walch app. So you select that, and then that brings that listener's recording. So it gives you a chance actually, when it comes over, it has this horribly long, ugly file name. That's okay. You tap on it and you change it. So I changed, like in this example, to voicemail Scott talking about iPad mini. So I know what that is about. What I want to do next is click on Studio here. So go back into the studio recording. So these little buttons here that say empty, you can bring in different sound recordings. So you can bring in voicemail messages from your listeners ahead of time before you record. And all you have to do to bring in the recording is click on it. You get a pop-up. You can choose from the music recording library or recordings. In this case, we're going to do on recordings. You're going to come back and show me the recordings. I just select that one. And then it puts the voicemail message right into the app. And now I can then mix that in with it while I'm working. So it's an example. So I'm in the studio, and it's all say empty. So I just do tap here, recordings, and I'm going to do a test. I'll pick one of the other test ones. So what'll happen, and actually I can't do this because it's you won't be able to hear it because it's muted. It would then play that recording in the mix, and there's a little thing that says mix here. And that mixes the volume level of that. So again, it's just a nice way to bring in voicemail messages that you can then play in the show while you're doing the recording. And now, let's say I want to have something funny in the show. Maybe last night I went out and had Mexican food, and I want to talk about that in the podcast. So, okay, I need to get some music in the show that's going to be kind of appropriate to that. So maybe I'll go in here and I'll say, okay, it's the morning after and I had way too many jalapenos last night. So we'll go into the music library and yeah, I'll pick The Ring of Fire from Johnny Cash. That would be a good one too if you're going to talk about that. I do have to say this, you really shouldn't take music that's not legally yours to put in a podcast. There is no such thing as fair use. That's kind of a bad example, but it'll say important, it's there, you put it back. And you should use PodSafe music. Google PodSafe music, or go to podsafemusic.com, but Google PodSafe and learn what is PodSafe music or not. There is no such thing as fair use, so actually I'd be breaking some rules by actually doing that. And again, I mean, I know we got more time here, but it really isn't that hard to do. You have the right app and then the right tools. So questions about this?
Okay, just one point of clarification. Do you only put that FTP in once?
You don't put it, you have to do it one time, and the next time you come back, it's there and it's waiting for you. So you saw how quick I didn't have to type anything because I had done it. I had to make sure I did it this morning and it was there. I made sure it was ready to go. But yeah, once you do it, from that point on, now I can podcast from today's show anywhere I want now with my phone. When I want to talk, I come up to you, talk to you, do a little recording, go back and forth, do an interview with somebody. At the end, do a save, and then upload it to iTunes. Or upload it to my feed to listen, which then will go out to my feed. So anyone subscribed to iTunes will see it. Again, in just about a minute, it'll be live.
And so do you recommend a particular length of one's podcast?
The length is always a big question. People ask how long it should be, and the Joker said in the last presentation, so I'll say again. For anybody that saw Star Wars Episode 1, it was a 2-hour movie with 15 minutes of content. Bad choice. you want to make sure your podcast fits the length of the time. You don't want to stretch content out to fill some predetermined amount. You don't want to say, oh, I have to do half an hour every day. What you want to do is podcast out the amount that you think is right for you on that episode. Now, you might have a goal. You might say, I want to do 20 minutes every day. Perfect example, average commute time in the U.S. is 26 minutes each way. So you may say, I want my podcast to be about 24, 25 minutes, a little under 26, so that the average person can listen to my episode on the way to work or on the way home. Yes?
When you're editing, if you're adding sound effects and things, is it better to use your Yeti mic and have your computer there to play them as you're doing it?
Well,
or is it better to use that edit?
It's better to use
your mixer in the app.
The app itself. It's better to use the app because, I mean, we go back here. It's better to get, you know, I mean, you really want to, that's what these buttons are here for, is to bring in the sound effects beforehand. So you kind of prep up your show so that when you're doing your show, you just tap on it. Now maybe you have your intro. So maybe you have a really nice, slick intro with and all different sounds. I think if you listen to my podcast, I always have I don't even know if I have my own regular podcast on there anyway. So, and it's not. Why would we play that stage? But you know, I have my own intro music, so you can take your intro music, put it in here, have your outro music, maybe you have a typical outro with some disclaimers or something like that. I have a normal outro on my show. I know this is going to play when I put my phone. You can have those things loaded into those carts and then leave a couple of other carts for voicemail messages. And then you can, again, when you're recording, you can slide the slider to pause it. And then go and then remove the recording and bring a new one back. So once you have a recording in there, it doesn't. What you'll see here, this is an X. So once you're done with that, you can X that out and now open that card up for more. And I don't know, Dave, when you guys do the iPad version, because right now this is a iOS, it's an iPhone app design, but just go to 2X to see it on the iPad. But they have an iPad version that's coming soon that's more, you know, full real estate. Will you have more cards for the full real estate?
Yeah, yep. But we're also, the new version is going to have double cards as well, so there'll be an option after 12 in the iPhone view. I think the iPad is something like 20 by default, and then you can have 32.
Yeah, and really, I mean, again, I'm not recommending the app because I know Dave's here. I'm recommending the app because it is the best podcast creation app in iOS. Without a doubt, even ones that are out there that don't allow you to do MP3, it's better than those. So, I mean, it's really nice to have. And the most important thing, they keep working on it. They keep adding features.
So what kinds of issues do you run into when you're doing your podcast in terms of storage, if at all?
Well, the beauty is your iPad.
Content.
You're doing an audio podcast. You're not going to fill up your iPad. At minimum, you're going to have a 16 gig iPad. I mean, some might have 64 gig. I mean, you're going to take up a lot of audio to fill that up. I mean, you're going to take a lot of audio to fill up 16 gig. And then on your Libsyn account, you just set up the account size that you need. And once you've uploaded it to Libsyn, you can delete it out of this app. So once it's uploaded to Libsyn and it's live, then you just go into the recordings and remove it.
Because it's housed.
It's housed on Libsyn. So, you know, again, I'm assuming you're going to use Libsyn. I mean, I'm biased, but it is the biggest podcast, so it is the best one out there. And it works really well. The FTP and this app works nice. But you pay for a single account, say $20 a month, it gets you 400 meg of uploads in any 30-day window. Once a file's over 30 days with Libsyn, it moves into the archive, which just means it no longer counts against your uploads. So I had files I uploaded to Libsyn when I first started with them in March of 2005 that are still active, still work on my original show, Podcast 411. So I don't have to worry about that files ever going away. Once they're up on Libsyn, as long as I'm a paid user of Libsyn, those files are live for as long as my account's active.
Okay, so say
Yeah,
asking
this
because
is-
I want to know if I can record that and then pull it in and then make the podcast.
You would have to record a Skype session off. You need a mixer and another device. Maybe what you could do is support line in.
Yep.
So you could take the line in out of the mixer, and you could be talking to someone on Skype, and your voice going into the mixer, their voice from Skype going into the mixer, that mix and coming into where you record it in this app. But you kind of need 2 iPads to do that, by the way, and a mixer.
I see.
So you're getting a little bit more complicated, but it's possible. I mean, but you're not going to be able to do it with 1 iPad, and you're going to need two devices, one to talk on Skype, and 1 mixer, and then the other iPad to record.
Is the app, the iPad version, is it going to be a separate app, or is it going to be a full
Universal, yep.
universal?
Yep, hopefully drop it next week. I'll give everyone promo codes, if anyone wants the promo codes, nobody has to buy it.
So you can try his app out for free, you can try Libsyn out for free, and see if it works. If it doesn't on Libsyn, again, just cancel. If you sign up for Libsyn today, just cancel before November 30th, on or before November 30th, and you won't have to pay. And some people say, well, why do I need another podcast host? I already have a host for my website. Worst thing you can ever do is host your podcast where you host your website, like your WordPress or some self-hosted site for your work. Because here's what happens. Your podcast gets popular, you get mentioned in the New York Times. If your website is your entity, especially if it's your business, and you put your podcast where your business is, your podcast can get popular. Downloads of podcasts are high bandwidth items. You'll all of a sudden get this email from your website. You've exceeded your bandwidth limits. We've shut your account down for this month. I've had people call us in a panic on like the 10th of the month because their podcast got popular, shut down their website, and they weren't going to be up again until the end of the month. And they had to get an agreement with their web host to show that they moved their podcast to us so they can get their website and their business back up. Don't ever put your podcast, even if you don't host with us, host your podcast somewhere else other than where you host your website.
A lot of people say, and I've just read this, use like a feed burner.
Yeah.
Rabbit, you can always redirect.
You can always do that with Libsyn. You don't have to worry about that because Libsyn, you can CNAME in it. So you can change it so that your feed doesn't have to be iPadtutorial.libsyn.com/RSS. You can change it to your domain.com/RSS. So it doesn't really matter. And even if you do use the Libsyn one, we allow you to put a redirect in, we allow you to put the iTunes new feed tag in there. So we do not lock you in at Libsyn. If you can leave, if you're on Libsyn, you want to leave, we give you the tools to do it. We're the only one out there that lets you put in your own redirect, add in your own iTunes new feed tag. Because we don't want you to stay with us because you have to. We want you to stay with us because you want to. But yeah, here's my biggest concern about FeedBurner. Well, 2. One issue with FeedBurner, we plan to do this podcast long term, do a lot of episodes. Once your feed gets to 512 kilobytes in size, it stops updating with FeedBurner. And how do you know your feed stops updating from FeedBurner? Does FeedBurner send you an email and says your feed is 512 kilobytes? No. You find out because your listeners send you an email. But where's your last couple of episodes? You go, what?
There's a lot of talk that FeedBurner is going to be discontinued altogether.
And that was the point too. FeedBurner, Google shut down a bunch of services recently. They shut down the podcast app. They had their own Podcatcher app in Google Play, and that's gone. So there's no guarantee that FeedBurner will be around. To put it nicely, Google makes money by selling you to their advertisers. And if they can't figure out how to sell you to one of their services to their advertisers, they shut it down. You, the end user, are not Google's customer. You are their sheep they need to slaughter. I don't mean to be mean and critical fanboys to even when I say that, but it's true. Their business model is advertisers that can make money. So, from that perspective, I actually switched. I used to use FeedBurner for my podcast. Today, my podcast. My FeedBurner feed was the one I had in iTunes. I recently switched it. When they back in July, when they shut down when they yanked on the Android side, the podcatcher app, I went writing on the wall, I better switch. So I've switched now, so my feed is my Libsyn feed, which is now, today on iOS, it's tii.libsyn.com/iTunes. That's my main feed. And I was having the issue too, I was running up also on the limit. So I was having to do stuff to compress, and I had to have a second feed, and I was doing all kinds of crazy things, and I was like, okay, this feed has all my episodes, but this one doesn't. And I was like, do I really want to do that? It's not working. Boy, I think I can do that one. Any other questions? Again, hey, if you guys sign up for Libsyn, find me or LC or Lindsay and let us know the account number you signed up for. We have swag. Give me swag away. Nice t-shirt. And a bag or a bag. And you have my email address. If anyone wants this presentation, email me, or matter of fact, see me afterwards. I'll turn this into a PDF, and I have a thumb drive. If you've got a computer you want to transfer it over, do that, or email me, and I'll upload it somewhere where you can download it. I'm sure it's going to be really big files. I think it's a lot of images. But yeah, this is one that probably would be a pretty good one as PDF. And I do plan to do an iBook and have all this also that will be out for a while.
So I have an existing recordings of what I call podcasts.
Yeah.
I can pull those in through Walch, John.
Yeah, or you just upload right to Libsyn. You don't even have to do that.
MP3.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason you're going to be doing with the Walch app is to create new content. If you already have pre-existing MP3 content, then you can just upload it to Libsyn and put in the title, description, and do all that. But I mean, technically, you could bring it in to the Walch app, add some music, intro, or do some other stuff if you wanted to. But if it's already ready to go as a podcast, then there's really not much you have to do.
Yeah, but like I don't have
Oh, then yeah, that would be something, you could bring it in, again, you could bring it all in on the iPad, bring it in, hit play, hit record, hit play for the original, bring it into the car, hit play, maybe, or actually do an intro, add some intro music, then hit play for the old recording, have it go through at the end, and have some outro music, and have it fade out, add your artwork, and then upload it as an MP3. So yeah, you can definitely use the Walch app to take a file. Now say you have a file with non-MP3 format too. You can do that as well, so you can use that app to do that. All right, you guys are like, okay, I gotta run over and see what they have for lunch, right? And if anyone wants a card, come see me. I can do a business card. And again, my email, actually not again, it's not, oh, there it is. And I'm on Twitter, @podcast411 on Twitter. Thank you all for coming out.